This video is going to demonstrate how to solve inequalities. So an inequality basically gives a range of values, and we know this because we've gone through all this already. But just to recap, this is the less than sign, less than or equal to sign, greater than or greater than or equal to. And it's very important that throughout this video and this chapter in particular, you understand the symbols and what they mean. So for solving linear inequalities, we actually apply the same rules we learned when we were solving linear equations. So for example, if we took the inequality of 2x and we say that it is less than or equal to 8. Now, the less than or equal to, or whatever the inequality here is, you basically treat it like an equal sign. So remember the rules in algebra that when you move the number over or back across the equals, it changes sign. That happens here too. So in this case, we're treating it as an equals. So when we've a number or a coefficient in front of a variable, we simply divide both sides by the number in front of that variable. So just like you would in solving a linear equation, you're just going to very simply divide both sides by 2. Because remember, if you do something to one side, you must do it to the other. So that leaves you with x being less than or equal to, well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that was quite simple and straightforward. Now we move on to a slightly more complicated example. So if we take 3x plus 7 and we say that it is less than 22. And we're told that our x is an element of n. So that means that our value for x must be a natural number. So before I even begin to solve this, my answer must be a whole positive number. So if I get a negative number, or if I don't get a whole number, I know that I have gone wrong somewhere. So just like you did with algebra, you would remember that we had letters on the left and numbers on the right. Letters on the left and numbers on the right. Well, this time we're treating the inequality as our equals. So my 3x is on the left, that's correct because letters are on the left. And my 7 is also on the left, so that's wrong. That needs to be over here with the 22. And remember I said that you treat this inequality as an equals. So if I'm moving my 7 over, it has to change to minus. So change around your formula now to suit that. We're going to be moving this 7 over here. So we have 3x 22 minus 7. So simplifying that then, I have 3x is less than, well, 22 take away 7 is 15. And now I'm back in the scenario like the last example where I had a variable and a coefficient in front of it and a constant on its own. So if I want to get x on its own, I simply divide by the number in front, but I do that to both sides. So I'm basically dividing both sides by 3. And that leaves me as x is less than 5. And I know I'm right because I have to have a whole positive number, and 5 is a whole positive number. So this example is a little bit different, and it's taken directly from the exam papers. So you're told to solve the following inequality for x is an element of r, so that's a real number, and show your solution on the number line below. Now, the number line below is always provided in the exam. We're not going to do that right now because you've already done plotting them on a number line. We're just going to try solve the inequality first. Now, remember, a very important case comes into play here because you're multiplying and dividing by an inequality by a natural number. What happens is that when you're dividing both sides of an inequality by a negative number, so let's say, for example, the number in front of our x here is going to be minus 3. Well, we're dividing both sides by a minus 3. We have to flip and reverse the sign. So I'm going to show you what that means now. So we rewrite our equation. 2 times 3 minus x is less than 8. Okay, well, just like you would a normal algebraic expression, you're going to have to multiply your outer term by your two inner terms. So you're going to say 2 times 3, which we all know is 6, and then 2 times minus x is minus 2x. And here you're going to see what they mean by dividing by a negative number. And that is less than 8. Now, exactly like you did in the last question, we need to have our letters on the left and our numbers on the right. So we have to have our letters left and our numbers right. Well, 6 is on the left. It shouldn't be, it should be on the right. So I'm actually going to be moving this 6 all the way over to this side of the 8. So then I'm left with minus 2x and that is less than 8 minus 6, because remember I'm bringing a positive 6 across the inequality becomes a minus. So now simplifying that, I have minus 2x is less than 8 minus 6 is 2. Now, I'm dividing both sides by minus 2 because remember, you divide by the number in front of the x to get x on its own. But a rule applies that when you're dividing an inequality by a negative number, you must flip and reverse the inequality sign. So you either flip it or reverse it. So for example, you're changing this. So if it's less than, well, if you flip that, the opposite is greater than. Okay, and if you reverse that, it's the same way. So flip or reverse means the same thing. You're basically doing the opposite of what it originally said. So we divide both sides by minus 2, just like we would normally. Divide by minus 2 and divide by minus 2. Now when we do that, we get x, we get minus x. X is, we flip the sign, so we've changed it way around, so it's now greater than, well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, plus by divided by a minus is a minus, so x is greater than minus 1. And that's your final answer. So remember, you do it all as normal the whole way down. You're multiplying the terms to remove the brackets, you're putting your letters on the left, your numbers on the right. Every time it goes across the inequality sign, it becomes the opposite. So I moved a positive 6 over here, it became a negative 6. And then just like you would normally, you divide by the number in front of x and you're left with a number on its own, which is minus 1. But because we divided by a negative number, we flipped the sign, or we put the opposite one in its place. And that's all you do. So give these learning checks a go. The first two are a bit like my example 1. The next two are a bit like example 2. And these last two make you think a little bit harder, and they are like the last example. So remember, if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you must flip or reverse the sign. See how you go.